Welcome everyone for joining us on this Saturday morning for our first teacher workshop of the year. We are excited to have you with us today. We are recording our session today. Thank you for joining us. To save bandwidth and for the recording, we do ask for our attendees to turn off their cameras and mute themselves during the presentation. I will be monitoring the chat, so if you have any questions, you can put them there and I'll share them with our presenters. And this morning is so small, we might be able to just get away with popping in with questions, but we'll let our presenter make that decision for us. As I said, we're recording. Alice will be sending out a follow-up email in the coming days with the recording. If you're uncomfortable with your name showing on the recording, you can change it to anonymous and then private message me with your name for our attendance. And as I said, if your Zoom name doesn't match the name you registered with, please change the name or let me know. I'm going to go ahead and do our land acknowledgement. Texas Children in Nature Network is headquartered in Austin, and as such, I'm on the ancestral and unceded land of the Tonkawa, Comanche, and Sauna people. Our ongoing colonial presence on indigenous lands compels us to take action now to counteract the effects of colonization. The work we do through the Texas Children in Nature Network is one small step towards that effort. In just a couple moments, I'll put a few links in the chat about land acknowledgements and about those people groups. I'd like to go ahead and welcome our speaker today. Debbie Ray is with the Link Project and at Texas Christian University. We're excited to have her here today to talk about the healing properties of unstructured outdoor play. And thank you so much. And I'm going to turn it over to you, Debbie.
Thanks, Sarah. I really appreciate it. I have minimized y'all so that I can see the PowerPoint on here. But Sarah, I hope you'll be there. If I ask a question, you can tell me, hey, we've got this many people. Yes, we can share, whatever. So I'll be reaching out occasionally on that. So thank you for being here today and being part of this, what I consider to be a very, very important topic to talk about. I think most of you are probably in some form of education, working with teachers, being part of a school setting yourself. So I'm going to be talking from a lot from that perspective, but I'm also going to be talking to you as adults and how play should be part of the healing properties for you as well. So, you know, I know this is kind of a mixed bag, but I hope it'll be enjoyable to you as we move through and I start putting some things in your place as well. So let's see if we can get this going. Okay, our goals for today: benefits and differences between unstructured and structured outdoor play, the necessary types of play to include, healing properties of recess when offered with the child in mind, the adult role during play and recess, and then playground nature designs that children love to engage in. I'll show you some pictures of different types of landscapes, and then we'll go into a Q&A. I am comfortable, especially what I'm seeing with the number of people right now. I'm comfortable if people want to ask questions as we go along with going ahead and answering as we go. So Sarah, if that works for you, that definitely works for me.
That works.
Okay, then we'll do it that way. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and introduce a link break to you so that you know what one looks like. You're going to get to feel it in a little bit because I never go over, you know, an hour to an hour 15 without having a break and then coming back and getting back on the topic again. So you'll see with things that I talk about today that link breaks are important. They're important for adults. They're important for kids. They're important for our sanity. And so here's what a link break is like. We set a timer for a certain time that it needs to go off. And at that point, when it goes off, that is the time to stop what you're doing, unplug from computers, technology of any type, go outdoors. Before you get there, if you need to use the restroom, go ahead and do so on the way out. Enjoy the outdoors for a few minutes. You can be physically active. You can just walk around. You can go swing a little bit, you know, whatever you want to do, visit with somebody. But it's getting outdoors that's important and having that experience of whatever you want it to be. Typically, when we do our link breaks in schools, it's 15 minutes each time. And it starts at the exit door of the school and ends on the playground. So transition to the exit of the school is not part of it, and transition back into the school is not part of it. It is a true 15 minutes outdoors with unstructured play, where kids are self-directed and self-controlled. That doesn't mean that we don't have teachers out there for safety mechanisms. It's definitely, we keep things very safe, but at the same time, there's a difference between being uncomfortable with what somebody does because we're not used to it, and the activity actually being unsafe. And then we always tell the kids before they go outside, okay, we were working on this right now, put down your pens or pencils, push in your chairs. When we get back, I want you to come to this spot, or I want you to go get back to work. And we usually see focus back in the classroom within 30 to 45 seconds of coming into the room itself. So that's a link break. When we decide, when I have the alarm go off, and it will go off at 9:55. And if you want to set your alarms, this would be a good way to practice it right now. Just go ahead and go to your clock and set your time for 9:55. And I'm giving you time to do it. 9:55. So when it goes off, you'll get that feeling of, oh, it's time to take a break. And then these are the things that you're going to think about before you go to your break. Timer goes off. You're going to go outside unplugged. Make sure that you go to the bathroom on the way out, because when I tell you that we're going to start back up at 10 after, then you got to be back and ready to go when I'm going to start you back up. In fact, I'm going to make it 9:05. We're going to make it a 10-minute break today, so that I can get the information in, especially with Q&A in between, the way we're going to do it. So we'll do a 10-minute break. 10:05 is when we'll come back. All right. So I want to start with, what's the difference in unstructured versus structured play? And if you think about what structured play means to you versus unstructured play, this is a time that you can unmute and tell me what you think. What would be structured play and what would be unstructured play?
Unstructured play doesn't have a purpose stated.
Okay. What would be structured?
So if like you went outside and you said, we're learning about bugs today, go find some bugs.
Yep. It's more directed, right? It's got direction to it. There are usually rules around it. People will say, this is what we're doing and this is how we're doing it. Make sure you do this, this, and this. And we think about structured play a lot of times being physical education, whereas we think of unstructured play being more the properties of just go out and play. And so as we move into this next area, what's defined as unstructured versus structured, you can see on the left-hand side, this is the unstructured play, and on the right-hand side is the structured play. There's one piece down here that you might question, and that is, how can you say that unstructured play will have more moderate, vigorous physical activity than structured play? Think about that for a second. We usually think of sport or things that we do that have an end in mind, a game, a competition. We think of that as being highly active. Would you agree?
We have yes in the chat.
Okay, so usually that's what we think, but in reality, what's going on is kids are standing on the sideline. They're waiting to get in to play their turn. There's not as much maximum participation. They're standing around learning about strategies. There are things going on that they have to stand and wait. When you're doing unstructured play, these kids are able to go out and do what they want throughout the whole time period. Now, sometimes they may be less active. They may be exploring, doodling, doing whatever they're doing on the the grounds. But in reality, they're still getting more moderate to vigorous physical activity than kids that are engaged in sports or structured play. So what are the benefits of unstructured versus structured play? You can see here there are two pictures. The one on the left is more of an unstructured environment, and the one on the right is more of a structured environment. So if we go to what is structured, what are the play benefits in a structured environment? You can see that they learn how to set and achieve goals. It reinforces bonds with adults. They learn how to follow rules, gives a good introduction to sports, learns sportsmanship, sharpens listening skills, and teaches teamwork, which is great. I mean, those are things that are really, really positive for kids. But a precursor to that is what unstructured play benefits are about. And I want to explain this a little bit more before I go into the unstructured benefits. Structured is more about competition. It's more about guiding and making sure the rules are in place correctly and making sure that kids are working within their team well, but also working in competition with other teams out there. If we start with that, which a lot of our nation does today, we tend to do structured play or structured sports as our main goal from the time children are 2, 3, 4 years of age, all the way up. And for a lot of parents, they get sucked into the competition very early on in life, where, well, if you want to be on the best teams, if you want to get the best training, if you want to get the best coaching, then you need to be on these teams. Well, it starts amping up where these kids in very early ages are competing and really don't even know what they're competing about, but they're out there competing. The problem is that they're not developing creativity, problem solving, and critical thinking skills. Instead, they're following whatever the plan is, whatever the coach says to do, whatever the teacher says to do. And so if we want kids to be much better at doing things so that structured play, structured sports become a place where we really succeed and we thrive in, we need to have the unstructured piece in place all through their childhood and into adolescence and adulthood as well. So let me talk about those ventures now. So what we know about the benefits of unstructured play is that it relieves stress and anxiety. It reboots our brain for learning. It actually builds neurological highways that go between the left and right sides of our brain. The way that we move and work in that atmosphere helps our brain kind of reset and get ready for the next thing that we may do. It provides a collaborative environment, something that we don't have much of these days in schools or in other places where we may be. The environment is very tight on being more quiet, work in your space. If you do have collaborative things going on, you're still not supposed to talk about anything outside of the topic that you're working on in the class itself. And so what I find, especially when I go into schools on the front end, is it's quiet in the halls, quiet in the classroom, quiet in the lunchroom. It's been quiet on the bus. It's quiet in the bathroom. It's quiet everywhere. And we wonder, why is it that kids can't socialize today very well, that they're texting more, they're using their phones more? Is because we have conditioned them to that. So in order to have the unstructured play that you're really looking for and providing that collaborative environment where kids can be kids can communicate the way that they like to communicate. They can learn from each other in these communication skills and reinforce and improve their motor skill development. Another thing about this is, from a benefit, is unstructured play is the only place where kids can learn to navigate different types of landscapes, different types of sidewalks and grass and, different types of environmental surfaces and so forth. We find that kids, before they start using unstructured play throughout a day, that they trip over different things that may be on the ground, or they may even trip over going over a boundary, like they may be in grass and then there's a playground equipment area. And when the kids get to that area where there may be like a plastic 6-inch to 8-inch high boundary to keep the mulch in, they trip over that, getting onto that next surface. And a lot of times kids become injured as a result of not being able to navigate the surfaces well. They aren't able to use their motor skills appropriately. We're finding today that kids in physical education can't move forward with learning skills that are developmentally appropriate in a safe way as well, because they didn't learn these things through play before they got to physical education in the first place. So things that I'm telling you right now, if you have questions about them, please feel free to ask. You can ask at the end as well, but these are very important features of what unstructured play gives us that we don't get through physical education and through structured sports. It sharpens our creativity, problem solving, critical thinking, and stability skills. It promotes healthier weight. What we've been finding through our LINK project is that kids who have been overweight or obese are changing in weight stature. The overweight category is actually shifting to a healthier weight category. Obese, this is interesting. What we found with our LINK schools, and I'll talk more about LINK in just a little bit, but we're giving 60 minutes of unstructured play a day in schools. And it's 4 15-minute breaks that are separated throughout the day. These breaks are helping kids move, be physically active on their own without any prompting whatsoever. And because of that movement, if you're overweight, healthy weight, or underweight, you're going to maintain your healthy weight, or the underweight kids actually become stronger and start gaining some weight. But with the overweight kids, you start seeing them shift towards healthy weight, which is great. And we haven't had any control over nutrition at all. It's strictly the physical activity aspect. We also know through accelerometers that these kids are getting up to 123 minutes of physical activity daily through 60 minutes of recess time and physical education if it's offered in the day. But it's just moving around to get from class to class, or where they go, they feel more like moving in the school day, not just during recess and physical education. So they're getting a lot of active time that we don't think about when we think about, well, we need them in the classroom for content. We need them to be in certain content areas. It's important that they do that, but the problem on that side is it really important if they haven't rebooted their brain and relieved the stress and anxiety in between times? All these other things are not beneficial. We also know that, I was going to tell you about obesity. We have found that the obese category, even with 60 minutes of unstructured play a day on the playground, the obese category, kids will not get more obese, but they're not shifting down in obesity. So they're maintaining whatever that percentage was when they came into LINK with 60 minutes. They're maintaining that. They're not getting larger, but at the same time, they're not getting smaller either. And so what we know about the obese category is that they're probably not moving on the playground like the other kids are. They're not getting that active time, and it's going to take some nutritional aspects with the obese population as well as physical activity to get them to a different category of health. And then it increases or promotes happier, more positive emotions. When you see kids are able to get out 4 times a day to play on a school playground, the playground emotion, you can hear it in the sounds of the playground. They are just happy kids. Their screams are more of happy screams. They're just, this is fun, running all over the place. It's just a happier environment. They're not struggling with each other and fighting with each other like they did previously when they didn't have these recesses. So it's a huge piece. I've spent some time on this because to me and to many other researchers, this is the precursor, and then it needs to flow all the way through a child's life, adolescent life, and adult life. So I'm challenging all of you right now that unstructured play should be part of your life as well, and your life with your kids as well, if you have families or your kids at school as well. Okay. One more thing about benefit of children being able to do unstructured play is children learn how to play. They learn through play how to learn. And they can't do that in the classroom. I don't care how talented we think we are. I'm an educator too. We are not the ones that teach them how to learn. They should have learned this through play as a child. And if they didn't have the ability, or they weren't provided the opportunities to go out and play, this is why we have the type of student we do today, who need you to tell them what to do every step of the way, because they're just not sure how to do something. They're just not sure how to get themselves prepared. They're just not sure what learning needs to happen in order for them to understand what you're trying to do. I wanted you to see here that the picture on the left is 1910, and the picture on the right is one of our schools in 2022 with the Link project. There's not much difference in what they were doing then and what they're doing now. We tend to say so many times, well, kids are just different now. Are they? Are they different? And if they are, why are they different? The difference is they're not getting the play environment that they need in order to be the kids of 1910 and the kids of 2022 that we're seeing with 60 minutes of play every day. So make sure that you really take note of that and ask yourself, are kids really different if they're able to get the play that they need? No, they're not. If they don't get the play that they need, that's why we're seeing the differences that we are. So what are the necessary types of play that we should have when we go into any type of play environment, whether it be indoor or outdoor? And I'm going to stress this from both perspectives. So types of play definitely equal learning. Remember, when we play, we learn how to learn. So what you see here are 5 different mechanisms of what we do when we play. And if you are offered these different ways, you should be able to engage in different prospects of exploration, problem solving, and critical thinking. So let's start with this left side over here with manipulatives. One thing to note about manipulatives, and inside you might be working with blocks, you might be working with, there's some magnets that are like the stained glass magnets that you can build things with it. You can also use all kinds of other like kinetic sand and things like that, where you can build things in the sand and see if the surfaces are different there. Lots of different ways that you can use manipulatives. But on the playground, manipulatives would be things like rocks, sticks, working in water, doing things where you are manipulating like little insects or flowers, things like that, and trying to figure out how things will work differently there. What we know is that in a 15-minute recess break, 2/3 of that time is built around science and math concepts, and especially for boys. I'm going to say this again. For any play experience outdoors, 15 minutes, 2/3 of that is in math and science concepts, and especially for boys. That's very important to know, that we think that the only way they can learn math and science is in a classroom with a teacher, when in fact they learn it on their own all the time. if they are put out there in a play experience, self-directed, self-controlled. They will do all kinds of things. They will make believe things that we never even thought about if we allow them the time to do that. The make-believe piece, which I have the arrow there, but it actually goes to the one at the top. On the indoors, we used to have kitchens. We used to have places where they could make believe by dressing up and, putting on different clothing that would be for different aspects, and just make believe the stories. Start talking about where they are and what they're doing. I mean, you might see that they say they're in a rocket ship and they're going off to the moon, or they're in the desert somewhere and they're looking for camels, or, I mean, who knows what they're make-believing about. But when they do, they're being so creative and innovative in their actions. Well, out on the playground, they will make believe all kinds of things out there. They will take little ants that are forming their own place, and they'll put a little hut above it, and they'll say, okay, so we're making a house for them. This is where they're going to go. This is how they go into their tunnels. This is what they do. But let's go ahead and make a little pond over here, so if they need a drink of water, they can get that. And if we take them over here to this area, they'll be able to do such and such. And then we're like the giants. And when we come around, there's this pounding that goes down on the ground, and it shakes those ants up. So we got to make sure that they are safe on their surface that they're on. And they'll go on and on about make-believe of what they do on a playground. But it's amazing to see that they take little bitty things and they make believe that into something very, very powerful for themselves. But you know what's really cool about it is when they do stories outside, when they take it to the nature scene, they are better writers, because they have something to write about. They have experiences that they can now call upon. They're also better writers because as they work with things outdoors, they're better able to use their fine motor skills, and they can handle a pencil or a pen much better for writing on paper. Some people may say I'm old school, but let me just say, I don't think we should ever depend wholly on technology. Technology should be a supplemental material, but it should not be how we learn as individuals how to write, how to communicate, which is just talking to one another and socializing, and how we read. Yes, we could use an iPad for everything we read on, but there's something about a book, being able to hold that book and flipping a page. Those are all things that are important for children to be able to learn, and especially seeing pictures and being able to touch the pictures and feel the pictures, feel the surfaces. Those are all very important things. Up at the top, you see more of the creative piece. And this is more about, if you can get music going, being able to, see and hear and feel different ways that we have sounds, visuals, things that'll prompt us to feel more relaxed in nature. Those are important. We also need our physical skills. And with physical skills, these are things that they do outside naturally. Some people think that monkey bars, and this is a form of a monkey bar that you see right here in this area, but just let's think about this for a second. Monkey bars have only been more injury prone because kids are not getting enough play outside in the first place. But once they do get the amount of play, which is, even if they're getting 30 to 45 minutes, they're getting enough to be able to navigate something like this. But the other thing is, if you only have them come in from one direction, and go off the other direction, you won't have the battles in the middle of the monkey bars, which is one of the ways that things are most dangerous for kids. So trying to get them to, enter from one way and exit from the other, there are not near as many problems. But if you have to take play indoors, weather-related issues, or you're wanting to do play with younger kids, and you want a more controlled environment to do that, then you could use balance pods and hula hoops and cones and balance beams that are made out of foam. There are lots of things that you can do physically inside as well. But I will warn you that physical activity or getting movement where it really improves the body, improves the physical nature of the body, as well as the cognitive nature of the body, you got to take it outside. And I'll talk more about that in just a minute. The fifth one that's not on here, but it's one that I want to talk about, which is expressive, is being able to use art, use music, use different props to be able to express how one feels. And if we can get kids to express themselves, it's a way for us to see if they are more anxious and stressed, if they do have some things going on that, you know, are more of an issue at home. This is ways for us to be able to tell this by allowing them to do expressive things. So even blowing bubbles on the playground, writing with chalk on the, let's say it's a hard top surface, being able to use the music like this more expressively where it's down on their level and they can actually, you know, rattle the pipes a little bit is important. So being expressive is the fifth type of play. Even if you decided you wanted to play music in your room and do some playful things, that would be more expressive if they get up and dance to the music or work with the music in some way there. Do we have any questions at this point that we need to stop and talk about?
There aren't any in the chat.
Okay, then we're going to keep going. All right. So the next piece is, what are these healing properties of unstructured outdoor play that are so important? Because if we talk about healing, there are two terms that you could use: healing versus curing. Curing is somebody has cancer and we're trying to cure forms of cancer. That's to say we're eliminating cancer from the earth if we say we cure it. But from a healing perspective, this is helping an individual person find perspective in their life with what life is about for them. Being able to take negatives that have happened, catastrophic events that have happened, and be able to create healing properties so that those bad things are left behind, but the strengths that the person brings moving forward in their healing process have turned them into even a better person as they move forward. So what are healing properties of play, especially unstructured and outdoor? So I'm going to get a little on some things that I think are really important for highlights, but I'm also going to talk about some link things as well. So positive emotions in nature, we know, and I said this earlier with a benefit, that there's a lot more happiness out on the playground. Something you don't see in kids much today, especially post-COVID, is that happiness is not as evident as we once saw. And really over the last 10, 20 years, kids do not come to school as happy. They're not as happy throughout the day, and they literally become burnt out on school by third grade, which is, man, that's sad. And I'm going to stress this again, with something like the Link Project, these kids are not near as stressed. They come to school and they're much happier. They really look forward to being at school, and they enjoy having their social time with their friends at recess. Empathy is a big one. This is the main place I'm going to talk about empathy. But if we think about, you know, a lot of curriculum today and a lot of things that people do has to do with teaching about bullying and what does bullying look like and why should we not bully and all these things. One thing y'all need to understand and remember and share with anybody else is our brains compute in positive terms. Our brains do not hear the negatives like we think they do. They reinterpret into something that has what to do in it, not what not to do in it. Okay. And I have to work on this all the time, even with what I say. But if you say, don't run, don't bully, don't slide, don't hit, don't kick, the child or the adult will hear run, hit, kick, bully. So when I come back to this empathy word, children today, many of them do not understand or have ever felt empathy. They definitely understand and they have felt bullying. They've definitely felt and understand PTSD moments. They definitely feel and understand abuse or chronic stress states of their family or of people around them. But they don't know how to feel and understand empathy. So one of the things through Link that we do, and we do it compassionately and make sure that we do it every day, is we work on empathy skills. And we do it through a curriculum that I'll talk about in a minute. But I feel from the bottom of my heart that this is the way that we should be teaching kids and helping them understand how to navigate life. It's about the empathetic movements and actions that they do. It's not about teaching them what to not do and what that looks like. They already understand that. They already know that. We need to be helping them feel empathy. And the best way to do it is through nature. The best way to do it is through animals and insects and things like that. The best way to do it is by allowing kids to learn how to navigate with each other. That's how empathy will come about. I have a quick story about this. I was working with a school in Round Rock, and it was twins that were at the school. And when these twins had gotten there to begin with, they were still, one of them was wearing a diaper, the other was sucking their thumb, and they were really delayed in some of their maturation developmental skills as kindergartners. And emotionally, when they go on the playground, they were like just bulls out there. They would run and try to knock people over and try to, just engage in very aggressive ways. Since COVID, we've seen the same thing in a lot of kids where aggression has become heightened as a result of being indoors so much, not having interactions with others and so forth. But back to these twins, when we first went there, it was really sad. And they would go under their desks when they get back in the building and not want to engage in learning or anything else. And in most schools that don't have like Link principles where you have unstructured play and you have to go outside, whether the kid has been disruptive in class or not, the child still needs to be able to go outside and play. These things, when we prevent them from doing that, it only presents itself as more aggression and more anger. But if you can allow them to go outside and maybe have smaller spaces, or maybe have places where they can be in a safer environment with less or fewer kids, or maybe even play more in a place where they can learn how to explore and be more innovative at first, and then help them move out into larger areas, that can help. But what we found over time through the character piece that we were using and being able to go out there for 4 times a day, I'd gone out there in the fall and watched these 2 kids. And then when I went in the spring, I could not believe that these were the same 2 kids. They were happy, which they had not been in the fall. They were playing with other kids in a very safe way. They weren't aggressive anymore. They were playing very innovatively. They had lost the diaper and the sucking the thumb. They were actually just playing like normal, developmentally appropriate kids would do in kinder and first grade once they come to school. Everything changed within that first semester, so that by the time they got to the second semester, they were really starting to engage in a healthy way. The empathy piece was so much part of that, because other kids were learning how to play empathetically with them, even though they were being so aggressive. And in doing so, being able to communicate, I don't like it when you do that. Don't run at me like that. Don't hit me like that. I want you to play with me, engage with it. Come on, let's play with this. And they were teaching them how to do things that were much more comfortable for both of them to be able to play. Huge, huge change, but it came from an empathy perspective. And then quality of life, relationships, all those things are part of nature and what we get. Play is very emotional. And I want you to see that the children on the left are ones that we see quite often in schools today. We see them quite often everywhere today. I am amazed at how much we've taken responsibility and decision-making away from kids. And we are making all decisions for them, including if a kid gets hit in the head with a ball, we'll take the ball away for that reason. And there's no reason to take things away. It's more about we need to teach them how to play appropriately in those situations. But we don't. We take that responsibility away, and now, oh, well, we're just going to take recess away because they can't play right out there. Well, have you given them a chance to learn how to play correctly out there? Or is it mainly, nope, they screwed up, we're taking them back inside. We're taking them to a controlled environment where we can keep a tab on everything that they do, and it's just less hassle if we do it that way. Well, this is the type of child you get when you do that on the left-hand side. This is the type of an adult that you will see, which we are seeing now. We're seeing in the generation of 20 to 40s, we're seeing this as adults, not just kids. When play is available, look what happens on the right. And these are the things that you really want to see. How many of you have seen that lately children they're okay with failure? So many times they're not. And this is so sad. Failure is part of our growth experience. Being at peace with who we are is part of our growth experience. We've got to be able to get back to play, being available daily for children. All right. Any questions at this point from anybody, Sarah?
We have a few in the chat. It's pretty long. So I'm going to read the whole thing, and then maybe we can go back and chunk it up. So it's from Marisa. She asks, how can parents encourage schools to bring back recess? Donating manipulative help? Will arranging outdoor activities help? What do schools need to see recess and valuable time versus something that they can take away as punishment or preventing bad behavior? This is what has happened at our school. Kids are more aggressive during their 15-minute recess, so their solution was to take away recess 2 days a week, Tuesday and Thursday, in order to spend time in an online anti-bullying curriculum. They were originally planning to take away 3 days of recess. This is ongoing now. How can we as parents encourage them not to take away that time?
Yeah, so I just addressed that, I think, with this slide, with not the question, but with what happens when you take it away and you stress bullying, right? I mean, those are the things that are causing us to continue on the same path we're on. The best to answer the question at the end, I want to answer at the end of this presentation. How they can get involved.
Perfect. That's our one, well, it's many questions, but our one question, if that makes sense.
All right, so let's move on. We've got about 10 more minutes before we take our break. So I want to go ahead, we'll just go ahead and move through a couple more things, because I think at the end, we're going to want to talk about some of these policies and things. So I will, I'll get back to those things at the end, but let's move forward then. Okay. So If we think about the different ways that we heal, what you see here are things like the child in the middle who has a worm in his hand and he's digging in the dirt. And, a lot of adults think, no, we can't have kids doing that because that's not healthy for them. They're going to come back in, they're going to get some kind of germ, and then they're going to be sick. No, this is how they won't get sick. These are the things that will help them build their immune system. This is important for healing their bodies so that they can be in all kinds of places and not get sick. It's when we leave them indoors all the time, and adults, you on this call, this is how you're getting sick too. Chronic diseases are cropping up because we're not getting outdoors. Being able to see, that kids are working in different ways, doing different things is part of the healing process for all of us. I want to talk about this particular concept, nature deficit disorder, and why being indoors is such a sickness for us. Let me start by saying, I want you to think about your lives and how much time you're outside during a school day, if you're in a school, or if you're in a workplace, if you're in wherever you are, how much time are you indoors in your day? And put in the chat what those numbers are. I'm going to pull up my chat for a second. How many minutes or how many hours are you inside? Put it in your chat. I'm feeling, I'm seeing the number of hours, which is anywhere from 6 to 9. And it's heartbreaking to me to hear how much we are spending indoors through the most important time of the day. And what I'm going to talk about from here till probably halfway through the next section is why it's so important that we're outside. And these are the things that you can help take back to your schools on what's happening. So with nature deficit disorder, this is a coined term by Dr. Richard Louv out of San Diego. And the book is Last Child in the Woods, which if you haven't read it, it's an awesome book. But I'm going to share some of the highlights from this right now with you that are really important. The first highlight, if we think about nature deficit, why is it that if we're not out in the outdoors, that we don't have nature as part of our everyday life? Why does that hurt us? Well, there are two things on this slide that are really, really important. He talks about target versus field focused. And we know that kids who are only on iPads, technology of some type every day throughout the school day, if that's what they're on, they're very target focused. They're very, in the moment, I've got to focus on this one thing. Well, what happens is that they become very ADHD-like. We call that characteristics that are like ADHD. Before I started Link, I would go out in schools and I would see that kids were just, that they all seemed like they were ADHD. I mean, there weren't kids that really sat and focused throughout the class period. Unless they were on technology. If they were on technology, that's like a drug to them, and they did fine. And only for a point. But most of the time they would get up, they'd move around, they'd start daydreaming, they would put their heads on their desk, they'd move things around the room, they'd sharpen their pencils, they'd talk to each other about anything but what the content was about. And as teachers, we were redirecting all the time. And we know that we were redirecting, we measured this in observations with off-task behaviors. And one teacher in particular had monitored how many times how much time she had redirected behaviors throughout the day. It was 2 hours of redirection throughout the day of her class. And she was in that class from 7.5 to 8 hours a day. 2 of those hours were caught up in redirection. All we're asking for is 60 minutes of recess and a 15-minute character lesson to recoup those 2 hours of redirection. How hard can that be, right? But it is, because we're so focused on a standardized test and outcomes. It matters not whether this is important for kids or not. It's all about keeping them in their seat and all the things that go with that. We know that if they get outside, they get the target and the field focus. They can see, and you see this on the right-hand picture, you can see lots of things out there, and then you can target in on one thing going on. And then you can look at all kinds of things again, and then target in on what's going on. That's important. When you do that, the ADHD-like individuals, those characteristics disappear, and the kids become much more focused. They're able to focus for the 45 to 60 minutes before they get another recess period if they're with Link, and off they go to reboot again. They come back in, they get refocused, they go outside, they get all their energy out again, they come back in, they get refocused. It becomes a very different environment for kids and adults when this happens. The second piece that I want to explain has to do with the sympathetic nervous system response and the parasympathetic nervous system response. We know that when we go outside, we become much more relaxed. And it's because the PNS, the parasympathetic nervous system response, it's a natural response for us. When we go outside, we do feel more relaxed. Now, you can argue that if it's real hot outside or it's real cold outside, you might not feel as relaxed. You may go, no, it's too hot, it's too cold. I get it. But in nature, when you have trees and greenery and clouds and sky and all those kind of things, it actually relaxes our system naturally inside. On the other hand, we present a lot of sympathetic nervous system response when we're inside. The question I'll ask you is this: if you are teachers, administrators, people who work in buildings all day long and don't have much access to have break times, how much time do you have to go to the bathroom during the day? And if you're stressing your bodies by not getting to go to the bathroom, that means you're also probably not hydrating as much so that you don't have to go to the bathroom. You're probably doing things that it's like, well, I just have to not think about it. Well, that's stressing your body. That's stressing your kidneys. It's stressing your colon and your intestines, your liver. It's stressing all of those things. And that's why we're seeing a lot of chronic disease today, is because we are keeping ourselves in a chronic stress state indoors. And that's what happens as sympathetic nervous system response takes on the fight or flight response. Any questions at this point? I don't know if that.
I am not seeing any in the chat.
Okay. All right. I'm going to be able to start the next thing, but I think the alarm's going to go off in just a minute. So if it does, you'll see how I do link breaks that way. Okay. So the next thing is other outdoor healing properties. Number one, our eyes do much better and have longer time before they have to go into glasses if we use the outdoors throughout the day. We also need to stay off technology completely before the age of 3 years of age, and then only 1 hour until they're about 5 or 6. And then you could do up to 2 hours through elementary school. Wow. Did I just say 1 to 2 hours? Or did I say 6 to 8 hours? And how many hours do we spend on it in schools a day now? We have bought in to very unhealthy principles for our kids. It creates a lot of stress, addiction, lack of natural light produces strain on our eyes, and we lose the clarity of colors, much less what it's doing to our brains. All right, I don't know if you can hear that, but my alarm is going off. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to stop sharing for a second so I can see y'all. And we're going to do our link break. We're going to come back at 5 after 10. I really want you to get outside if at all possible and experience the outdoors. It's perfect weather today. So get outside, enjoy that until 10 after. You can go ahead. Y'all are already muted and pictures off, but I'm going to go ahead and mute myself and make sure you go to the bathroom on the way out so that when you come back, you can just come right back to your seat. Okay, I will see y'all in a few minutes. 10 after. I think it's, I don't know if it's 10:10 on y'all's clocks. I've got just about 30 seconds, but just wanted to let you know that I'm back. Are others back yet? You can put a thumbs up or something in your window. Awesome. Marissa, thank you. Grace, yes. Shannon, Dawn. Awesome, Sarah. Everybody else back? All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Before I get back on the PowerPoint, I just want to know, how was it to go outside? How'd you feel? You can unmute and let me know.
Relaxing.
Okay. Did you feel like after having the first 55 minutes, was it a good time to just get out, reset, and come back?
We have in the chat, cleared my head. I enjoyed being outside.
Awesome. Okay. Anybody else?
Also, nice to feel the sun on my face.
Isn't that the truth? Oh my gosh, that's the best. Just being out, having the sun out there. There's a little bit of breeze here in Fort Worth. I know that y'all are from all over the state. A little breeze here. It's cooler, so it feels good to be out there. So I'm glad you got your break. Now we're back. We're going to go ahead and get started again. So let me go ahead and share my screen. And this is where we left off. Remember, I said on a link break, you always tell where you're going to be when you come back. And this is where we were. The extreme weather, a lot of times we think that we're going to get sick when it gets too cold or too hot. And tomorrow's going to be one of those days in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I'm not sure about the rest of you if you're going to get the cold front tomorrow, but we're supposed to start dropping in temperature. And by the middle of next week, we're supposed to be down in the 30s or 40s in the morning. A lot of times when we hear this or see this, we tend to think, well, we're going to get sick because it's extreme weather changes. But in reality, those are the things that build our immune system up. If we're out every day throughout the day, then we will build our immune system. So don't be afraid of the outdoors. In fact, orange days, yellow days, with the ozone layer, it's okay to be out there. Just be smart about how long you're out there and so forth. 15 to 20 minute breaks at a time is not unhealthy for us to get out in the fresh air so that we can fight germs naturally. I want to talk about D3. This is one of the reasons the outdoor is so important, is because we get D3 naturally from the sun. What is D3? Well, it's a hormone that we need to get from the sun. If we don't, then we start building chronic diseases and lowering our immune system status. Deficiency in D3 is really bad for our systems. So if we have D3 in us, which is the hormone is in the kidneys right above, I'm sorry, it's not in the kidneys. It's in the adrenal glands right above the kidneys. This is where cortisol is produced. But D3 is one of those mechanisms that really keeps things healthy and keeping our bodies strong. So if we want to get D3 naturally in the sun, we don't want to be out more than 15 to 20 minutes at a time. We can do this in any weather condition, and it's best located if we're getting it between the elbow and the wrist. So you could have a hat on when you go outside, but just keep your arms exposed for that 15 to 20 minutes. If you're getting those breaks throughout the day, just make sure you're not getting them any closer in proximity than 60 to 90 minutes at a time before you take another break. Those 15 to 20 minutes are the most important minutes you can get from D3 exposure. The best time to get is between 10 and 2 in the day. The problem with this is that skin dermatologists will tell us we should not be out between 10 and 2. And it's the harshest part of the day, and that we should wear sunscreen if we're going to be out, and make sure that we are fully clothed. Well, if it's no more than 15 to 20, you're okay without the sunscreen, and you're okay with being out between 10 and 2, as long as you're taking just short breaks built sporadically throughout the day. When you're out for longer periods of time, yes, you should probably put some sunscreen on, wear a hat, wear your sunglasses. Those things are necessary, but not when you're doing these short breaks, which is what Link is doing. So D3, very important. You can get poison from D3 if you take too much. Adults, just a normal dosage, if you don't know if you're D3 deficient or not, is 2,000 IUs. But the best way to find this out for children who may have chronic diseases, and it may be D3 deficiency that's causing them, just get your children's to take a blood test, and it will say whether they're deficient in D3 or not. And for you as adults, you can do the same. But just to let you know, a lot of patients that are fighting cancer and some pretty drastic autoimmune issues, doctors will put them on heavy doses of D3 now in order to build the immune system and be able to fight these autoimmune disorders or cancer. This is a big one for me because, as I talked when I started the presentation today, I'm coming back to it again, is that we have taken away responsibility and decision-making skills of kids. Play is where this really takes place. And our locus of control, where we put mistakes or things that we did that we shouldn't have done, our successes and failures, where do we put that blame and where do we give success to? And if you ask the question to yourself, if I failed at something, why did I fail? There's a lot that goes into that theoretical parameter, but if you say, well, I failed because I just didn't work hard enough at it, or I didn't give enough effort, or whatever that might be, that locus of control is a healthy place to be, because you're saying, hey, it's on me. I just need to work differently or smarter or better. But it's because I didn't put enough effort in. That's a healthy place. That's a healthy response. But when you hear somebody say, I failed because the test was too hard, or the teacher didn't tell me what was going to be on the test, or I just didn't think that was appropriate to ask, it's deflecting to an external person or an environment that is why you failed, instead of taking the ownership on yourself. We need to take the ownership for our successes and our failures. And when we don't, not only do we become much more helpless, hopeless in our way of seeing things, but we also start thinking that there's nothing that we can do for ourselves. And so this is just kind of a picture depicting, if we are having an internal locus of control, it's about making things happen. And if it's external locus of control, it's things happen to me. And so which type of child do you want? Who do you want to be? The internal locus of control or the external? And I am very much, I will tell you, I'm very much an internal locus of control, but my whole childhood was based on play. I had play from the time I was very, very young through, I still play today. And I'm going to talk about that with y'all as well. This is very, very important to your psyche, your helpless, not getting to a helpless, hopeless place, but to really feel like you can thrive in life. So I want to give you a glimpse at what Link is. This is something that we haven't, made sure that we have really talked about yet. But I just want to show you what Link is, and then I want your feedback on this a little bit. And then we're going to go into, some of the landscapes that work for kids and why they're so important. And then I'm going to bring back some policy, some things at the end because y'all have asked about them before we end today. So let me go ahead and get this started.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
The LINK program has been a game changer. Greenfield Elementary is happier, a calmer place because of LINK. We love it.
Our students know that they're going to get these brain breaks. When they start getting anxious or anything, they know they're going to get that opportunity to get up and move.
The more they move, the better their brain functions. If their brain is functioning the way it should, then they're able to be successful in school. It's 4 15-minute unstructured play breaks a day and a character development curriculum that's every day for 15 minutes that's based on something called positive action.
Eat right, eat healthy. Harper, what's another one? Wash your hands.
LINK allows the teachers to teach at a deeper level with a higher understanding. It's more about quality over quantity.
Who remembers what creative means? Everybody.
Make something new.
Their engagement with me and my lessons are much better because they know I'm going to give a lesson, they're going to work, oh, but we get to go out and play. And it's the most important thing for them on their minds all day long.
I like school a lot because there's recess. I'm out running and I'm not focusing on what's making me stressed. I'm out playing with my friends. And then when I get back into class, I'm not stressed anymore. I'm ready to figure it out.
They can self-regulate, and then there's not as many discipline problems in the classroom.
Recess or unstructured play is not just free time, it's purposeful free time. We have to have time to be able to disconnect from whatever the work is in order to reset ourselves, in order to be creative, and that will have a direct impact on critical thinking.
When kids have these LINK breaks, they're much more focused, they're happier, they definitely learn better.
When we look at Maurice the mouse in the mirror over here, what do we say? We really try to teach them that if you think positive, talk positive, your actions will be positive. The lack of structure on the playground has really sparked their creativity and their imagination. They are playing like kids and they are interacting with each other.
You see kids able to very quickly move from that environment and within minutes are back in the classroom learning. That's a critical piece for LINK.
The transition that we do is a secret sauce. If you do it right, it is an amazing transformation. They'll come down the hallway quietly. They know that they're going to recess. They get outside and then they can scream and yell and do whatever they want. When the whistle blows, they come back in quietly again, go back to class, and within about a minute's time, they're back on focus in the classroom on whatever it was they were doing before they left.
This is how we do school in Seguin. LINK creates the conditions necessary for learning to happen. We have increased outside unstructured playtime within the school day, and we have not had any decrease in academic gains. But we have had increase in social emotional outcomes, happiness and self-regulation and resiliency.
Socially, the kids are much better at working out problems and getting along with one another. Emotionally, they're happy, settled, less anxious, and with cognitive, they are able to focus throughout the day. And for physical, they're very agile, coordinated, and their body fat levels are more in a healthy range.
I know it works because I see kids smiling. We have hundreds of years of documented research that will tell you that play is important and that nature is important.
Play is where you learn how to be a good citizen, how to take turns, how to use your creativity, and you'll use it the rest of your life.
To be able to know what your body is telling you and know where to seek relief from stress and from anxiety in a safe and healthy way, I mean, that's powerful. That's changed the world big.
It's all about, what can we do for kids to really bring back the wholeness of the child?
And that's important to create healthy, happy, resilient children.
And when I look good and feel good, I will have a positive day at school.
right. So thoughts on what you heard? Anybody?
Nothing in the chat, but
Okay.
I was struck just by how we know these things from the research, but just like seeing it in practice.
Yeah. Yeah, I can talk about it all day, but actually seeing what it looks like is pretty powerful. I agree with you.
Grace has amazing, something I wish I had more in school as a kid. My mom is a teacher and she wishes she had more playtime for her students. And Dawn says, good information.
Good. Awesome. Well, the main thing that I think, I hope a takeaway that you saw from this is that it's really about quality over quantity. We tend to get fixated on the number of minutes that should be taught in school and not about the quality of what goes into those minutes. And a lot of times, we think, oh, well, it has to be very driven in English language arts is only in that class period, whereas we don't think about reading is going across several things that we do, more cross-disciplinary. So it's really important that we start thinking a little differently about how we work with kids and not that everything is in a silo. All right, well, we'll keep moving on then. So that is our mission, which is to bridge that gap between academics and the whole child. And we do it with that 60 minutes of recess and 15 minutes of a character development lesson through positive action. If you want to know more about positive action, you can see it at positiveaction.net. And I would tell you that the reason I picked this curriculum is because it has 140 lessons per year. It's developmentally appropriate pre-K through 12, and it's scope and sequence and spiraled for schools or for community use, like after school programs, groups that are using it in other resource areas. It's great for that. But the best thing about it is that it's done through storytelling, and characters are built into each year of what they get. And these kids, as you saw on the video, these kids really engage in positive action in a positive way, which is great. And they start learning those empathy skills like they should. I wanted to show you, this is an adult sample of when I do professional developments with teachers or administrators or consultants, businesses, anybody who's doing some type of training, that you should always have breaks throughout the day. And you can see how I build in 4 breaks, even with a professional development day, or even when I do my link leadership trainings, or anything that I'm doing, I build in those breaks. You need to build in those breaks as well for yourself and for your groups that you may meet with and work with. So I have these at 45 minutes and then a break outdoors, and then come back for 45, break outdoors. There's no reason you couldn't go 55 minutes and then have a 15-minute break. It was just easier this way for this particular day. It gave the individuals time to be able to socialize and work with themselves work with each other on things that they might want to talk about. But we tried to keep business out of it when we were outside. We tried to just really keep it more nature-like. And then, as you can see, the breaks would be at 9:45, 10:45, 10:45, 1:30, and 2:30. And that's what you see on here is where I would tell the group in a professional development training, okay, go ahead and synchronize your phones for this, so that when when our phones go off, that's when we're going to have our next link break. Now I'm going to move for just a second into playground nature designs that children love. I will illustrate, or I'll talk about how teachers should or should not get involved in these playground areas and why, but I'll do that as soon as I've gone through some of these different pictures. So goals that you should have in any play area is that it should be fun, it should be diverse and varied, should have different physical challenges, continuous learning, be safe, much about safety and accessibility, that it can be anywhere And then what I just add, just to make sure that everybody understands, kids love hills, water, sand, natural equipment like trees, stumps, and beams. They love that kind of stuff if given the opportunity to play on it. So here are some examples of different ways that kids play. This particular picture is of a school that I'm working with up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. It's called Copper Island Academy. They are really doing the Finnish model, but they're collaborating with us. We do the training for them on their transitions and how they do school during the day and what should be incorporated and things like that. We do all that with them, but they are really a Finnish community, truly a Finnish community. Their families moved over here many years ago, and the majority of the kids that go here are from Finland, three generations back. The interesting thing is that none of these parents that have kids in school now have ever been to Finland. So it's really an interesting concept, but they do every hour, 15 minutes of recess. And this is what their unstructured play environment looks like. They do have an equipment area right up. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but right up in this area, there's a lot of equipment up here, playground equipment, but then this is their natural forest habitat where they can do all kinds of things. And in the wintertime, they do cross-country skiing, ice skating. They have an ice skating rink, all kinds of things that they do in the winter versus the summer. You definitely want things that are physically challenging, and you can see there's a child here, there's a child here, and there's one more somewhere up in this area. But there are 3 kids up here, and they're talking these others on how to learn how to get up into the tree. This is, having a tree limb that's kind of expanded out, and the kids are balancing on this. You might say, well, that's kind of dangerous that they're up on that, and what if they fall off? But the thing is, they learn how to navigate these surfaces. And even if they do fall off, they've learned how to fall appropriately. That's what play is about, is being able to fall and learn how to do that in an appropriate fashion so they won't hurt themselves or injure themselves. I can tell you from all of my play experiences growing up, I've had 2 or 3 situations that if I had not learned how to fall when I was a child and learned how to really navigate those falls, I probably wouldn't be alive today. I was on a bicycle going downhill about 25, 30 miles an hour and lost my footing in the pedal and came off the bike. And instead of falling on my head or going down on my side, I actually was able to land, brace myself and land on my seat and just bump along and then go right back up on my feet. That's not something that you would learn how to do in bicycle safety. It's just learning through play that, hey, there are going to be times that you've got to navigate differently, and how does your body respond to that is very, very important. These are smaller areas where you may not have a lot of field area, but you've got a space where you can put a lot of different things. And you can see here, this is fun because they can go in and out of tunnels. They can have bridges. They've got uneven types of things to step on or step across, maneuver. Here's a little train kind of thing that they can play with that's more make-believe, a place where they can do more make-believe drama kind of things, make-believe their stories, tents. I mean, you name it. There is so much stuff in here, and they can move and play at their own pace, but there's also a track down on the lower part that moves around the outside there that they can run and play on as well. These are fiber kind of sticks that bend and can actually bend with the wind on this internal part. And then these are areas where they can go in and out of holes that is kind of cool in what they see. Continuous learning, being able to see that they can play on their own, and they love to, as I said, they love to get in water. They love to work with sticks. They love to work with insects and play with things. This is a playground at Trinity Valley School in Fort Worth on the southwest side. It's a private school. They rebuilt their reimagine their whole playground. The blue that you see around it is a river. So when it rains, the water flows through there, but they can also take hoses and put it in and run water through that river at any time. Swings are underneath this covered area, and they've got several swing sets over there. This climbing apparatus is really cool for kids to be able to climb and navigate, and they can actually sit up here in this top little cavity up here and just look around at what's out there. Can be anywhere. They've taken, this is in Oklahoma at one of our schools there called Chattanooga, Oklahoma. It's 30 miles north of the Vernon area of Texas where they play. They have 3 different playgrounds, huge playgrounds, but they have moved in construction, these cylinders. They've moved them in, they put sand and dirt all around, and these kids just play and go wherever they want. Think about places where kids can be more silent, have more solitude. They can play still in the grounds around there or on the benches. You can see that they're all locked down so that they can't be taken. But some kids who have insecurity or PTSD, things like that, this is more of a atmosphere that's more healing for them, where they can sit and play on their own and have safe space around them. This was in Sedona, Arizona. I took a picture of this. These are wind chimes. They can be placed anywhere. You can make them and put them anywhere. They can stay outside all the time. And kids can come along with the sticks and really make some great sounds with them. Yes, they're expensive, but you can make much cheaper versions of them. But I just want you to see the kind of things that are out there that can be played with. I brought this up because it's so simple to use 2 areas that you tie ropes across to trees, from tree to tree or stick to stick, beam to beam. This particular kind of maneuver where they're working on balance of their hands and feet simultaneously is working hugely on cognition. These kids are able to vestibularly bring neurological activity between the brain and the system so that kinesthetically they're working in a very powerful way. Easy stuff to set up, and kids love to do this kind of stuff. And then rocks, being able to stack rocks, being able to just see rocks. This particular rock formation is on a path, a hiking path. Like if you were to go on a journey, where they could go and explore, they could actually make a circle of rocks like this. This is really cool when the sun comes down and beams down in different locations, but deciding how many you want to work with, how high you want to build, what the sizes are that you want to work with, that's also very important. And then building stick fortresses and putting sticks together in different ways. This is the lower left is more of an indoor play example versus the 2 outdoor examples. Loose parts are really important for kids. Being able to use these, put them out there where they can explore and do things on their own. They love being able to dig in sand or dirt with shovels, not big shovels, but little shovels or scoops, and be able to make hills or tunnels or whatever they want with that. Pool noodles, cardboard boxes, easy to bring to a school and put out there for them to play. You don't tell them what to do with it. You just put this stuff out there. You could use a cardboard box with stuff in it or a bucket with stuff in it. I can tell you they're probably going to use the bucket and the boxes too. They're not going to leave stuff in there. They're going to dump it all out, and they're going to use that as well. Puppets are great. I wouldn't take them outside. They ruin really by being outside. This would be a great option for indoor stuff. Clothing and hats and things like that are good for indoor. You could take them outdoor, but you're going to need to bring all this in every day. But puppets will get so messed up, you won't be able to use them after probably about a week. So I wouldn't take those outside. Pots, pans, utensils, grills. Oh, great stuff to work with kids, or not work with kids, but just have it outside where they can work on it. I'm at a point now where I want to talk about some recess policies that earlier y'all had asked about. Before I do this, I want to share my screen. I want to stop sharing for a second. And I just want to see, are there things that we need to talk about before I go into these policies?
We don't have any, so we do have a comment from Dawn. She says, it's unfortunate that we can't take link breaks during the STAR testing days when it would really benefit both the students and the teachers.
Absolutely. And we do that in the schools that have link. You can do that. It's just a matter of getting to a point where breaks are part of the school day so that it doesn't seem so foreign to them when it's time to do STAR testing. But we teach kids all the time in link schools that when it comes to STAR tests, they know when their bodies need the break. So they'll ask to go to the bathroom, which they can do. That's legal. They can also ask to, when they go to the bathroom, they can, stand up, move around, go where they need to go. They know that they're on a self-pace, so they're going to finish when they get back, but they need to also realize that they don't need to get nervous about not finishing when others finish, but that they can take whatever breaks they need to and still get through the test. So these are all things that we teach kids through the teachers when it comes time for link breaks. We don't want to condition them to, you need to sit longer. No, we want to condition them to understand and recognize when their bodies need the break and take the break and then come back and get back on point again. And some of these kids need them much more often than others. Anything else? Any other comments on that?
That is the only comment so far.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share for the policies. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit because with the question that was asked earlier about how do we get people to listen? What do we do? First of all, I would say work with SHACs here in Texas, which is the health coordinating groups that bring people together from community, the students of the schools, the teachers, administrators, people from off campus that work in community ways. We bring those together and then they work on bringing policies to school boards and superintendents on trying to get things changed. But let me talk about things that should be in a policy if you want to do that in your school. So let me share this real quick with you, which is this one here. Definitely, there's no one that has everything on this list in a recess policy. No one out there except the Michigan charter school that I told you about earlier. This school has unstructured outdoor play every day for 15 minutes, 60. They actually have it 75 to 90 minutes a day. They do 15 minutes every hour, plus they have a 30-minute time. They have a 45-minute lunch with 30 of that they can go outside and play. You don't want to remove it for punishment or tutoring. You want it to count as content minutes. This is critical. If we could get recess to count as content minutes, we could have 60 minutes every day if we could get the state to recognize that recess is content. And then recess minutes should be separate from physical education minutes. They should not be the same. We shouldn't be saying, well, if you get recess today, you don't have PE. And if you get PE, you don't have recess. That is not the way to navigate unstructured and structured play. They need both. But remember what I said at the beginning, recess is the foundation for physical education to be able to work appropriately that then leads to sport being effective. Otherwise, physical education and sport will not be effective for a lot of kids because the play piece, that foundational piece, is not in place. The other thing that I wanted to go over with you real quick is for district and state considerations, require play breaks every 60 to 90 minutes in in-service or professional development trainings. So make that a priority with where you are and what you can do in those kind of situations. If you can get people to start feeling it, remember what I talked about with empathy? Well, if you can get people, adults, to start feeling this, taking a break, going outside, coming back, instead of thinking they have to shove lots of content into you, they'll start feeling it as well and then want to incorporate more. You get people to feel it and you can start creating change. You need to have good leadership at schools, trying to influence that, if a principal isn't working, help to find a different place for them and get a principal who is about the health of our kids, the healing of our kids, the social emotional growth of our kids, and so forth. Start working around cross-curricular teaching instead of silo teaching. Stick with curriculum over time that you introduce instead of trying to change curriculum every 3 to 4 years. Stick with the curriculum. If you go back in time to how we did things when I was growing up, we did not change curriculum. It was every teacher knew what they were doing in kindergarten, what they were doing in first grade, what they were doing in second grade. There was no change. We are changing way too much. We cannot get consistency when we're changing curriculum on a yearly or every other year or every 3-year basis. Less school per day, meaning less content. Work that quality, not the quantity. Minimize assessments to prepare for standardized tests. Quit worrying about the standardized test outcome. Start focusing more on how you get there by the process of learning. And then education agencies, this is something that we need to work with them on. We need more local control for decisions instead of the state education agency making all the decisions or the politicians. State bills need to have more resources to support school districts. And then ask the question, why are teachers leaving in the middle of a school year? Why do we have people exiting throughout the process of a year? We're losing teachers at a high, rapid rate right now. Why is that? And that's a really important question to ask. And the answer is because we're not giving enough time for us to be healthy throughout the school day, for people to be happy and resilient and settled in what we do. So the last thing I'm going to ask, and then I'm going to open it up for dialogue, is what is one thing you, your school, or your workplace can do right now to bring play and breaks back into the school day or back into the day itself? It's intentional. If you want this to be a priority, it has to be intentional. What can you do? What's one thing you can do right now that would help you do that? And I'm going to now open it up for questions. Here's my information here's my email address. You may want to just take a picture of this. This is our website. This is our Facebook. You can like us or friend with us or whatever with Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We're on all those things. I can also get that information to Sarah if you don't get this now. But anyway, I'm going to stop sharing and open it up for dialogue.
We have a few questions, a few comments so far.
Yep.
So Natasha has written, we are an early childhood program, and we are adding more outdoor play and creating an outdoor classroom.
Awesome. That is great news. Let me talk a little bit about teacher involvement, if that's okay. If you're doing short breaks where you want them outside and the goal is for them to have unstructured, self-directed, self-controlled play, then don't get involved in their play. Stay out of their play environment unless it's an unsafe environment. The reason is that if you're there, they want to do and please you. If you're out of their environment, then they will play and really engage in ways that you wouldn't have thought they would have. Don't be afraid of kids who are over by themselves. The children will learn to pull each other into their play, and children who are by themselves will learn to engage with others. We do that better with the character piece that we have, because we're able to emphasize how we work with each other and how fun it is to communicate and talk to each other. But you can educate them on things like that when they're in the classroom. If you don't have a character piece, you can still bring those things out and just say, you know, you need to have play, make play the way you want it to be. I'm going to make sure you're safe. And that's all you have to do. And then allow them to play in that goal of, we want them to be self-directed and self-controlled. If it's more about you want to teach them, you want it to be more structured, then that's where teachers would get involved. But otherwise, you want to stay out of the way and let them play their way. What's another one, Sarah?
We have a comment from Dawn. We should incorporate link time in our lesson planning.
Yes. Yes, you should. If you've got lesson planning that's going on throughout a day, yeah, you definitely need a time out. Put that clock on. Turn it on for, you know, whatever you decide you want your break times to be, and get outside. I mean, that you're right. These are things that we have not been intentional about. And that's what I'm asking you to do. Be intentional.
A comment from Natasha, great session, thank you.
You're welcome.
And then while we wait for more, I put a few announcements in the chat.
Okay.
So if y'all could take some time to fill out our evaluation, I put the link in the chat. That helps us plan, and it also helps us communicate with Debbie about her session. And I'm sure all of us that are educators know the importance of evaluation. And then also, if this is something that is interesting to you and you haven't already registered for our summit is in December, and I put the link to that in the chat. Okay, we've got a comment from Samuel. We have together on Tuesday so departments can learn about the other departments through play.
And what does Samuel do? What?
I don't know. Samuel, go ahead and take yourself off mute and tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, so I'm a Texas Rising Star mentor. So I work with the early childhood programs. I always tell people that I help teachers become better teachers. So
Yeah.
Play is really important. And so our department, the child care group who I work with or work for, has come together to incorporate play a little bit more. And so we call it Together on Tuesday. And It's always a big game. We have to be outside in some form or fashion. So it's fun, you know.
So Samuel, is there anything that I didn't cover today that you want something from?
No, I think you touched on a lot of things that I kind of reinforce my psyche on. I am saying the right things to people when I talk about play.
Excellent. Excellent. Any others that you have something that you didn't get today that you'd like to try to engage conversation about?
We have a question from Natasha, and I think maybe Samuel, you might be a great resource for this. She asked, can you add some more ideas we can use with early childhood, ages 0 to 5?
Yeah. So the play, the 5 characteristics of play that I talked to you about, you definitely want to engage in all 5 of those different areas, and then use loose parts a lot. And 0 to 5, you can just have things that have different feels, different textures. So that's my side of it. Samuel, you want to give yours?
No, actually, pretty much the same. Just allowing children different modalities is really important. Yeah.
Yeah, I would even add, one of my favorite things to do is have different textures of sand. So even outside, having coarse sand versus real fine sand versus sand that is more sticky versus sand that's real flighty. Things like that are really cool for kids to play with. And then being able to have different kind of textures of rocks and sticks and different things to climb on and stuff. Those are all, and Samuel, please feel free to add in, or anybody else who does the really early kids. But those are things that they love, and they love water. I'm going to give an example here. We've got in Fort Worth at our botanical gardens, the botanical gardens is going to be opening by 2024 or 25. I hope it's 24, but anyway, they're opening a family garden. And the mantra for that garden is safety third. Now you might ask, what's first and second? First is a place that they can use their creativity and innovation. And the second is that they can play on their own without anybody getting in their way, right? That they are self-directed, unstructured. Safety third is because there's going to be a waterway that they can play in. And one of the conversations that came from this, you may say, well, why am I talking about the botanical gardens? It's because I'm on the committee to make sure that the botanical gardens family garden is going to be really cool for kids and interactive for parents and kids. So you'll have to come see it if you're still involved in or even not, just bring people up to this. It's so different from what Dallas has at their Arboretum or some of the other areas have. But the river that's going to be there, it isn't going to have more than probably, I think it's 4 or 5 inches of water at any given time. And they were saying, well, but a kid could fall face down in that water. And I went, and what child is not going to be able to turn their head and not be in that little bit of inch of water, right? And so it came to be a funny thing that, okay, we'll have safety third, but the safety is still there. It's just that the motto of this particular garden is don't have anything out there that a child can't touch or manipulate in any way. So even artwork that's going to be in this garden, they can climb on, be part of, engage in. That's what we want, is something, and this is to think about, Natasha, is just think about how can you have things for young kids, 0 to 5, that they can manipulate, they can engage with, and they can be part of in whatever they do.
Wonderful. We have a comment from Rita. I'm fortunate to work as an environmental educator at Leela, and all our classes are outdoors, but I also appreciate your recommendations for free play.
Absolutely. Thank you for that comment. Yeah, free play is so important. I just, yes, as I said, structured play is also important. Physical education, very important. Being in sports settings, very important, but not at early ages. They need to be engaged in this unstructured environment wholly through that time period. They shouldn't be competitive until at least the 5th, 6th grade time period. Competition is not needed in pre-K, early childhood, pre-K through at least grade 4 or 5.
And then a comment from Dawn, fairy houses are fun for all ages. I love to make them myself.
Absolutely. Yes, anything like that is, that's the make-believe, right? That's the stuff that kids are so good at. I mean, we as adults struggle with that. Dawn, I'm glad you're good at it, because sometimes we struggle. I don't struggle as much, but I think in general we do, because we don't play enough. We just don't get outside ourselves and play enough. For you all that said that you're inside 6 to 8 hours a day, you need to find ways to get outside in your positions. Take your kids with you, get outside.
Well, I think that is our last comment or question. And we are just about at time.
Yep.
So thank you so much, Debbie. I did put in there also our next teacher workshop is on November 5th. It's going to be a virtual forest bathing walk. So if you aren't familiar with that concept, it came over from Japan a few years ago. And it's the idea of the forest being your therapist and being able to just really connect and think about have some time to reflect on your own mental health. And we're doing it both for our teachers as a time for you all to have a moment, because November and December are a bit crazy. We all know that. So have some moments for yourself, but then also think about how you can take some of that stuff into your classroom as well. So we encourage you to register for our next teacher workshop on November 5th. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining. We really appreciated you joining us this Saturday morning, and have a fantastic rest of your day and go outside.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right.